Hello guys, welcome to another video from Oscar Cooper. I hope you are all doing well. And yes, this is another list, of course, and we're doing roguelikes or lights, and let's just explain a little bit about what that genre is all about. And of course, the fact that this is a follow-up video, I did do a roguelike or best of PlayStation 4 roguelikes about 2 years ago, so it's been a while and the genre needs revisiting. We've had some major new hits come out since that video was completed, and I just want to explain what we're looking at now. We're looking at Don't Starve, a video or a game that I very much wanted to include in this video, but there's some issues with it at the moment on the PlayStation 4, and I want to find out if they're just my issues or whether everybody's been suffering from them. Basically, the game's amazing, and it should be on this list, but I can't actually get the damn thing working. It's got beautiful Tim Burton art style. It's a huge rabbit hole style roguelike with crafting in it and everything. But once I get on, all I manage to get is my save stuff is still there. I know a recent 1.04 updates come out for it. It's also a couch co-op game as well. It's 2 players, so even more reason for it to be on this list. But I cannot get further than having to go offline. It won't log me in, and I can't get further than the screen. So it kind of freezes. Notice that the loading emblem in the corner has only got 1 dot. Normally that would be a recurring 3 dot sort of, so it's frozen. It's been 3 days now. I wanted to put it on the list, I can't put it on the list, so we're going to have to just make do with that and crack on with some other stuff. So I had to swap it out with a game called Remy Law, which of course is everybody's dream, to play a weeaboo female baker trapped in a crazy universe accompanied by a book, right? So there's your law. That's the Remy Law for you, and what it's about is a sort of top-down, and it's very melee based. It's got some really cool specials that appear on the square button, and we'll go into those in a bit more detail because they accompany the weapons and the weapon loadouts. But the game is very numbers based. It's very action RPG based. You have a dodge. It feels very comfortable. It feels like something that you've played before, and it's also quite punishable on death. That's something I'm measuring these games on. Of course, any roguelike is going to be extremely punishable on death, and let's just reiterate exactly what I'm talking about when this genre is brought up. Basically, it's a game or games that involve doing a run. You get 1 life. Of course, when you die, you technically start from the beginning, but normally you would accumulate any sort of power-ups or perks as you keep playing the game, so that you start again a little bit stronger. And some of these games exist that rule, some of them don't. Most of the time, you've got a map, not procedurally generated, normally randomly generated, so that you know each run is a little bit different. Remy Law's got some very interesting perks and some very interesting loot system involving cakes and profiteroles, etc. You get to upgrade and update and sort of sort out your inventory, and of course it's all about these weapon drops. As you can see, that you use domestic items and crazy items like street signs. There's a balloon I was using earlier. You can see there's hammers and scissors. It's really cool with its weapon variation, and some of them are heavy weapons. There's a button combination with triangle and circle which boosts the melee, and it does really well on bosses. It's actually quite harsh with death, so you'll start at the start of your act. I'm up to about 4 acts at the moment, and if you sort of fall through and halfway through an act or die on a boss fight, you are going back to the start of that act, which is fair enough. That's normal stuff for roguelikes, but it feels a bit harsh with this game. But don't let that take anything away from it. It's colourful, it's funny, it's Japanese, it's new, and of course it's couch co-op. I'm scoring a lot of these games on having a roguelike with couch co-op aspects. It's really a match made in heaven for me. So Remy Law, a lot of fun, should really have Don't Starve in this list. Yes, of course, it's a delightful sort of Ditto, a game that's available on the PlayStation Network and has an instantly recognisable art style and soundtrack. It's almost got an Adventure Time aesthetic with it, with these beautiful colours bouncing out at you, and this really well-drawn world, loads of varied enemies, really cool pickups. It's technically an action RPG, but it does have a roguelike aspect where if you die, you do get punished, you do go technically back to the beginning. We'll go into that in a little bit in a second. The melee is very simple. What you see is what you get here, but you have different loadouts with different characters, and you also have a dodge and roll mechanic, which is really handy. It becomes very familiar very quickly. It's a game you can jump straight into, and of course, huge points here. This is also a couch co-op game. It's been on one of my lists previously, and it's done very well. One of the things that it hangs itself on is, of course, the sticker system. These are load-in, load-out purchasable perks that the game sort of loves. You know, they're crazy. There's loads of them. They all do vastly different things and offer huge amounts of advantages in different directions. I think the sticker system's a great idea. Some of the stickers you get aren't scanned. You have to take them back to the shop to scan them, etc. It's very clever. It's very cute. It's very lovable, this game. It features some awesome collaboration, and it features some really great dungeons. One of the things that it's very good at is offering variety on puzzle and puzzle time, and also different loadouts. You can see that this guy's got like a yo-yo, he's like a robot, completely different to the previous characters. The dungeons are really amazing when it comes to the puzzle aspect. This game's got a lot of depth for a low budget indie game. You get these huge dungeons, they offer big puzzle areas with switches that you have to fire at with your ranged weapon. They sort of switch the realities within the dungeon itself. It's really clever, it's very deep. It's a game I've got a lot of time for, and a game that is well worth looking at if you've got a couch co-op buddy that likes the old rogue lights or lights. So it's time for Moonlighter, the first true single-player roguelike on the list, and a game that is, of course, available on the Switch. This game boasts amazing 8-bit graphics. It's aesthetically beautiful. I really love it, and it's also very faithful to the genre's sort of traits. So we're talking about procedurally generated or randomly generated maps. This is almost like Enter the Gungeon or something of that vein. Very clever in the way that the sort of map rooms have their own sort of jurisdiction. You get to travel through the map, and it will always be random, it will always be different, and there will always be different enemy placements and enemy types to slay. It's got a very melee based combat system, and this game heavily and extremely heavily revolves around loot, and we're going to go into a little bit about why that is and what that unique aspect of Moonlighter offers, because this one is actually stand out. It was the most recent purchase for me on this list. I went to a number of top roguelike games available on the system lists on the internet, and this one always scored really well, and I often wondered why, so I thought I best have a look at it. I was totally sucked in by it so much. I cannot emphasize that enough. It boosted itself up the list and beat those other two games because it's something I'm totally addicted to currently. As we speak, I am playing Moonlighter all the time, and of course it would work so well on the Switch. Let's look at that loot system. So as you see there's a lot of detailed drops. What you do is you go back to the town that you sort of spawned from, and you get to sort of sort out your infantry and sort out your loot. You actually get a shop. You get given a little weird shop within the town itself, and then you have a day and night transition. At night you go and get the loot, in the daytime you allow the customers in. So you open the door, you open the shop, and look at the customers' reactions when they look at things. You have to price gauge everything. If you put it low enough, you can ship loads of loot. If you put it high enough, they won't buy it, they get disgruntled. It's so clever. You've also got to jostle this with the fact that you need the loot as well to build better weapons and build better armor, and to also make your health potions. So you're doing this massive, almost business sim infantry management system all behind the scenes whilst going out at night and actually looting and getting more raw materials. So it's just such a massive motivation to go out and get really cool stuff that you can then sell for loads of money that you can use to pump into the town and make it better. There's some great boss fights in this game. They are varied, they are huge, they always come at the end of a sort of set of a dungeon, and they also offers you an ability to set up a portal outside of the boss room so that you can spawn back in. That's really clever, because you would just be so disheartened with getting knocked back from dying from a boss every time. Down the line you get to upgrade your shop and upgrade the town, and look at the state of me here. I'm selling stuff for $6,000 or whatever the currency is. I'm rocking it. I've got all my shop's amazing. I'm pimping it out when it comes to my shop. I've got my little counter. You even deal with thieves. They come in. He took the most expensive thing, and it's like, get him before he gets to the door. He would have taken that. I would have lost like all the money on my armor set. So this game is delightful. You know, it's really surprised me. you get range combat and sort of bows and arrows in later game. Everything again changes up. Even though it looks primitive, it's not. It's huge, and it would work so well on a portable. Opening the new worlds and opening the new doors to these other areas never gets boring. The pull of getting back alive to the village with this whole sack of expensive loot that you've got that you're going to put in your shop is such a great motivation. I think one of the important things about a decent rogue game is that you have motivation to progress, and it's not just smacking you in the face with deaths every 2 seconds. There's this sort of risk reward element with going further, almost like a Dark Souls aspect, getting more and taking those risks and the big payoff. This is one of my balance sheets, just showing it off there. This is what I made in a day. That's a big number. I was very proud of that. So this is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in any of my lists. This was really, really difficult. What happened is, so we're on number 2, and I went through the next 2 games again. I sat down with them both for 2 or 3 hours each to make treble sure I was making the right decision here, because Dead Cells is one of last year's best indie games of all time. It really is a phenomenon. It was absolutely stonking. It came out, it totally kicked ass. It plays like a retro game. It's got this lovely lick of paint with the current gen systems. It runs beautifully on the PlayStation 4. It's available on the Switch. Not a couch co-op game, unfortunately, but it looks stunning. The artwork is amazing. The way you rattle through this game and how the controls work with the abilities that you're given is absolutely mind-blowing. It's beautiful. You feel familiar with it with almost seconds of playing it. If you grew up with a Nintendo system or a Master System or a Super Nintendo, you're straight into this. You know what you're doing, you know where everything is on the controls, and you just feel at home. And then there's this huge layer of amazing roguelike upgrades and weapon drops and a perk system that allows you to pump these orbs into an end of level sort of currency guy. It's so good. It gets so deep. No run is ever the same, even though technically prior to finishing the main boss you do have to go through the first 3 levels each time. It copes so well with it. I was really surprised at that. That's why this game is majorly strong for me, is because going from the beginning is not a problem, because you get to work out a good loadout, you get to take a different route, you have alternative routes. You can either go through the sewers or you can go through the sort of top rooftop level, and of course if you speed run it, this game loves speed running, you get these like 2-minute windows where you get massively rewarded, as you can see here, and then you can pump more of these orbs into the unlock guy. So clever, so good, and it's, it is one of the best roguelikes on the system. Again, available on the Switch. Came out on the Switch before it did the PlayStation 4, but I'm so addicted to it. It really is almost the perfect roguelike because of how it looks, how it plays. It's Metrovania, beautiful art style, the way that the weapons vastly change. You can have big large hammers, you can have a shield that parries, you can have quick dual swords, you can do sort of blocking, roll and dodging, cast ice, freeze enemies, use electricity on water puddles. I mean, it's mind-blowing how well done this game is. Everyone talks about it, how incredible it is, and it was a heartbreaker for it not to make number 1 on this list, because I put videos out about this saying, oh my god, is this the best indie game of 2018? One of the answers to that question is kind of yeah. I mean, it really is a deliverer when it comes to what it's set out to do. Dead Cells is absolutely amazing, should not be ignored. So I went toe to toe with Dead Cells and won. Hollow Knight, particularly the Void Heart edition that's available on the PlayStation 4 at the moment, again available on the Switch, but not a couch co-op game. Hollow Knight is a mammoth. in the industry. Hollow Knight has sort of burrowed out this name for itself in the community, in the indie game community, as a standout stellar piece of software and piece of art. Everything about this game, aesthetically, both art style, play style, roguelike aspects, the way it looks, plays, and how the difficulty level of it as well is kind of one of these sort of boundary level, it's not an entry point roguelike game. It's tough as fucking nails. It kind of perceives itself not to be, with some of its cartoony art style, but as soon as you sort of get past the first stage in this game, you realize how unforgiving it is. But it's also so intuitive with how it teaches you through failure of how it needs to be played, but at the same time it doesn't make you or push you down a singular tunnel in regards to play style or direction with the maps. The map is very open-ended. Ori and the Blind Forest is sort of the nearest I can get to how that map works. The characters, the darkness, the way that the story has mystery to it is Dark Souls is the nearest thing I can come up with how the lore works with this game and how the non-player characters interact with you. It offers a layer of mystery that is intriguing and frightening at the same time. The bosses are unbelievable, and they are so difficult on approach, but as with all of these games, you learn them, you watch them, you have to go back and you try again. The Hornet, Jesus Christ, I think this was my 25th attempt. I did it though. I did it on the night of getting the footage actually. I just couldn't let it go. That's when you know you're playing a good roguelike, is when you don't get pissed off with dying all the time. Because I knew it kept showing me these areas of weakness that I could exploit, but drip feeding that to me, so that I knew, I was just like, if I know I can do that again, if I just try that again, I know I can do it. So that concludes the list. What a brilliant bunch of games. What an amazing winner. As always, see you guys down there. And remember, this is a replacement updated list. I have an original list with stuff like Enter the Gungeon and, The Binding of Isaac, all that crazy stuff. So have a look at that. I'll put the link in the description. Take care, guys.